Welcome back to Sunday Live. We're going to take you straight back to Kajiado County. Victoria has an exclusive one-on-one there. Vicky, take it away.
Thank you, Jeff. That's right. Sitting right across from me is Kajiado County Governor Joseph Ole Lenku. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Let's begin with your political journey, which really started here in Kajiado. You had a rather unceremonious exit from the Ministry of Interior. Many wondering what happened. You really left with a cloud over you, and you had to now make that transition into politics. What was that like?
The cloud turned out to be the blessing. It gave me an opportunity to, first of all, set my life and think what I want to do with it. And being from the heart of Kajiado County, I would see a myriad of challenges affecting our people, so to speak, and the county. And I felt I must be part of the solution to address the problems. I immediately, after 6 months of exit in office, began the journey of talking to the people of Kajiado. That gave me ample time to do my politics and to set the ground for politics. I had about 2 years of groundwork that bore the fruits for being the governor of Kajiado County.
Did you feel that you had to do a lot of convincing, knowing that you had such a high national profile, not all good most of that time? Did you feel you had to do a bit of convincing for the locals here?
It was interesting because the people of Kajiado are first of all saying, oh, this Ole Lenku live, they've been seeing me too much on TV. And they are also asking, oh, he was ours. Oh, Niwetu, Lenku was ours, because they didn't quite understand where I came from. So it kind of set the ground for me, put my publicity quite high, and it was very easy for me to introduce myself and to drive the agenda. I clearly understood the problems affecting them, and so it was easy for me to connect with the people.
You like to say that you were the father of the original handshake because you incorporated a lot of the opposition candidates into your cabinet. Oftentimes tradition is when a new governor comes in, he comes in with his people, and anyone who was there before is out of a job. But you decided to do the complete opposite.
That is something many Kenyans don't know, that actually Kajiado, we brag ourselves of being home to the handshake, because when I formed my county government, I actually appointed in the county cabinet people who ran on the ODM ticket, so to speak, or my political rivals. And that set a mood for county unity. And as you can already feel, Kajiado is generally a peaceful county. Kajiado is like Kenya Ndogo. Most of the communities are here in Kajiado, despite the Maasai community being the dominant community. But it also set the mood for people to feel that they all belong to the county government. In addition, we allowed a number of people who served in the previous government to serve in my government, and particularly a number of chief officers. And so we are happy and easily fit into the Uhuru Raila handshake, because already it existed in Kajiado.
Setting the tone indeed. Let's move on to health. You have a program called Mbuzi Moja Afya Bora Concept. And many would wonder, this is coming just on the heels of universal health care in this country. Is it related in some way?
If you look at our devolved system as a country, the most devolved function is actually health. And when you look at the state of health in a number of our communities, it's terribly wanting. When the president began the journey to universal health coverage, already in the county we were thinking about it. We were very, very concerned about affordability of our medical services from the people. And we thought of a way to make the people understand that this universal health coverage is possible, and more so, we actually are able to afford it. The Mbuzi Moja Afya Bora concept that has actually come to resonate with the entire pastoralist counties was born out of the need of making the local people understand with a goat, that's the Mbuzi, where the Mbuzi come from. You can actually get an NHIF card that covers your entire family. And when we organized a function which was heavily supported by the president and actually officiated by his deputy, Ruto, and days after that happened, people were still coming with the goats to say, oh, give me the card that you exchange with the goat, because they never knew that it's a one-day auction, and after the auction, it's until the next year. But importantly, it made people understand that I can actually take my mbuzi to the soko, sell it, and get an NHIF card. That I look forward to being a critical success factor for my government, because it's something we want to drive forward for the remaining term of the term, to make sure that people have the NHIF card and ultimately access to universal health coverage. And the response is amazing. It has actually gone beyond Kajiado. You notice 2 weeks back we had a similar event in Narok, and a number of pastoralist counties are now linking pastoralists, or what they understand most, the goat, to universal health care. And we are very happy about it. And we continue to drive support for it.
Medical equipment is an issue now between at least county governments and the national government. They are at odds in terms of the amount they have to pay for leasing. It's now 200 million shillings. And many governors wondering why would they now raise that, making it more difficult to provide a lot of this modern equipment to the various clinics or hospitals within their counties. In your case, are you leasing equipment?
The medical equipment scheme, we call it MES, is something that the current governors inherited. The previous administrations actually were paying about 94 million per county. And all of a sudden it went to about 200 million, something we all said is not right. Unfortunately, there wasn't much to negotiate from, because this money is deducted at source. And so the counties actually take it as given. Yes. But we feel very strongly that it's way too expensive. Yes. And it's also a procurement element. So there was probably no need for the national government to procure for the counties. But there was no option of whether or not to. It is actually taken as given.
So you're not leasing any equipment from the government as...
No, they're provided, and so you take it.
So you just take it now?
Yes.
And which hospitals are benefiting from that?
Our key referral hospital in Kajiado town, as another one in Loitoktok, and another main hospital in Gong. So the 3 key hospitals in Kajiado County are benefiting from the scheme.
Food security, a big issue here in Kajiado County, given the perennial droughts that affect especially the pastoralists.
Yes.
They move around to different pasturing lands, oftentimes can't find enough for their cattle. But there have been some initiatives to try and get them into farming and other alternative sources of livelihood. How has that been going?
If you look at what I consider my main point of rubbing shoulders with my neighbors has been water, and particularly the Nolturesh water. And this is occasioned by the dramatic shift from by the Maasai community from ranchers and people who move from place to place in search of pastures to settled farmers. A concept we strongly support. When Nolturesh began, the water was going to somewhere in Nairobi or at River. But along the way, people started to tap water from the pipe and started to irrigate with it. And so the question of food security is something that my county government is driving very strongly to say, we have reasonably arable land. Yes, we probably don't have sufficient rainfall, but with irrigation, with water pans or dams, or even with our pipe water or Nolturesh and a number of other water sources, the community can now settle and do farming. We have a number of projects running in Mosiro. Mosiro is the top part of the county. We have a project running on water. I just saw you heard shortly about Murkea. And we plan to gradually migrate the community to farming, whether through rain-fed agriculture or through irrigation or through using water pans. Because as the population increasing, the land size diminishes. And also with the complication of demarcated land, moving from one land to another becomes a problem. So there is no longer free movement of people anyhowly. And so as part of letting people understand other use for land rather than ranching, agriculture become a key component that we want to drive as a county government.
Okay, so we have our man in the audience, Stephen Leto, so we can get a few of comments, questions from the Kajiado residents joining us now. Of course, water we will talk about is a big issue here, infrastructure which you're really trying to bring up. Do we have any questions?
Right, thank you, Vicky. Indeed, there's one man here who maybe just want to pose a question to the governor for Kajiado, Mr. Ole Lenku.
Thank you very much. His Excellency the Governor, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I'd like to ask two questions. One is that in which ways that do you have to the springs that we have around here to benefit the community that are living surrounding here? And my second question, is that the culture, this culture that we are keeping here, in which ways do you have to promote and also this community to benefit on the culture that we are preserving here? Thank you.
Okay, Governor, I'll have you respond to those.
Yeah, the question of around this part of the county, Amboseli, there are quite a number of water springs from Kilimanjaro, where the man is saying how do we benefit as a community, and secondly, the question of culture. Quickly to address that, as you already noticed, there is some piping going on towards the eastern part of the national park, or where we are, and that water is expected to be given to the community surrounding the park. But I notice also west, where most of the people are settled here, no projects going on, but something for consideration. But I think the biggest concern for the community here, and an area I think that there is a big opportunity, is the question of tourism and wildlife. We are seated just in front of elephants, as you already can see and feel. But when you look at the wildlife authorities, the KWS, these people are more concerned about the wildlife and nobody think about the communities. When you think about wildlife conservation and you don't involve the local people, you can be certain that that is a temporary measure and it does not provide safety to the wildlife. And so the community around here, something must be done for them to benefit from this wildlife. KWS must shift focus from considering bringing rangers from Nairobi or any other part of the country and make the local people become the custodian of the wildlife. This is their wildlife. In fact, to surprise you, 70% of the wildlife are outside the park, because the park is so small, about 390 square kilometers. And so it is the community bearing the burden of wildlife. Yeah. It is the community taking care of the wildlife. It is actually the community's wildlife, but the authorities have never taken it as such. So I want to say, for the community around Amboseli and all those communities around National Park, whether in Savo, in Taita Taveta, or part of Makueni, or anywhere in this country, the local communities must feel the benefits of the wildlife. If they don't do that, our wildlife have no future. And they're already doing that. Yeah. You know, they're already doing that. They're already taking care of the wildlife. So the benefits must trickle to the people.
Speaking of benefits of the people protecting their interests, at least in this county, there's been talk of expanding the Nairobi metropolis area. What is the impact of such a move, especially on the community here? Is it positive? Are there also some negatives to that as well?
You see, if you look at where the wildlife are in this country, it's mostly around Maasai land, and something many people don't know. Our culture, the Maasai culture, prohibit the eating of game meat or wildlife meat. We think or we believe it brings a bad omen to our goats, to our cows, and to our sheep. And out of that, all along the communities have seen wildlife as just part of their heritage, but they have not benefited from this wildlife. To try and create a corridor to exit some wildlife from Nairobi National Park, I don't think it's possible with such a heavy settlement. I probably support it, but I don't know how. I think the future of wildlife is now to bring the communities that live with the wildlife to take care of them. I have said here in Amboseli, 70% of the wildlife live outside the national park. When it rains, and you notice as you are coming in that out of last year's very heavy rains, or actually early this year, we now have like a permanent lake that has displaced wildlife. What the wildlife have done, they have now migrated to private ranches. So a conversation must immediately begin what happened to wildlife that is in the ranches. And the communities must or defend themselves if the authorities don't do that. And therefore, this is actually a signal to KWS that rather than just focusing on the wildlife, you better focus on the communities that support the wildlife.
All right, let's get a question from hopefully a woman resident.
Yes, Vicky, indeed, and don't forget that on my left there is very good cooking going on.
Yeah, we can smell it, yes.
Like you've seen, Vicky, women have come out in their large numbers for this, but let's just get one question from one of them.
Thank you. Hata mimi niko na swali kwa mheshimiwa wetu kwamba zile makaratasi ya NHIF zilitolewa, tulikuwa tunataka kujua kama hiyo inaweza kutusaidia. Thank you.
Okay. Question on health there.
This is the question of universal healthcare, the NHIF bima ya afya. And I know now people understand it and are actually looking for the same. And we are saying we want to continue as a county government to encourage people to get the NHIF card. But going forward, in the next financial year, the county will set aside some money to give free NHIF card to those families that do not afford the Mbuzi Moja concept. And so, ndio mama, wapatia kadi next year, lakini tunaomba pia wale familia ambayo wako na uwezo ya kuuza ng'ombe ama mbuzi na kununua hiyo kadi wanunue. Yes.
On the question on land, because that's pretty big, you have outsiders, and this is non-locals coming in to buy land, a lot of agripreneurs coming to begin businesses. And there was talk of a ban on sale of land. There was a lot of confusion. Was it a ban on the sale of land or ban on the demarcation of certain plots? What was it exactly?
Land, not only for Kajiado, but for this country is a very emotive issue. And a very sensitive matter for issue for that matter. And in Kajiado, what we are saying, because we can only see Nairobi growing into Kajiado, we say Kajiado cannot just afford to sit back and become one huge slum one night. There's quite a bit of dudus around, so...
Yes, we've gotten some visitors joining us.
We hope our viewers will understand us when we keep on... on land, we said something must be done about it. And we began what we call spatial plan, where we look at the county in totality and mapped it and say, we are going to set aside some land for ranching, some land for agriculture, some land for industries, some places for settlement. And we also set up a GIS lab where our land registry is connected to the GIS lab so that we can actually get proper information about this land. When we say that if you buy land in a ranching community, you become a rancher, and that you cannot put a factory in a settled community land, and that you cannot demarcate agriculture land beyond a certain size, that raises some eyebrows. But actually, it is meant to protect people who already genuinely own land, because a number of crafty people have taken advantage of that lack of that order to bring confusion, disfranchise other people, and demarcate land beyond a size that is reasonably productive. Yeah. And so we did not entirely close the sale of land. We simply brought order in that land. And you notice that even this week, we had a team from a number of government departments, judiciary, National Land Commission, the county government, the administration, to talk about land and disputes in Kajiado, where we agreed, or rather we resolved, that we are going to have a mechanism using community committees to address a number of conflicts that are arising out of this land. Mediation, we are believing, is a way to resolve the conflict. All our courts in Kajiado are clogged with land disputes because there is so much confusion, or there was so much confusion. And this spatial planning and the community committees, dispute resolving committees, will ultimately try and resolve this problem. Right. So spatial planning is something I will encourage the people, the residents of Kajiado and those coming to Kajiado to accept as a way of planning the land use in Kajiado for the long-term good. Not only for ourselves, but even for posterity. The conflict now we have and the complaints we see and the confusion is something the government cannot sit back and just let it rain. We must have order, land must be put into proper use, and land must be managed in a way that is beneficial to future generations.
All right. Thank you so much, Governor, for your insights. That's all the time we have. However, we had to spare a bit of time for some nyama choma, which is waiting for us on that side. So shall we?
Okay.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. Nasikia kuna
All right,
nyama
as
choma
we make
hapa.
our way here.
Indeed, maybe the chef here who assisted us can tell us maybe what was the secret in making this for the
It's
governor.
looking really good.
All right,
Aha.
So I would to take the pleasure to welcome Mr. Ole Lenku, the Governor of Kajiado County, to have a taste of this goat which was roasted today. We actually bought it from the community, and we did it. We roasted it
Vicky,
the
Thank
Maasai
you so
way.
much.
So
this is traditional nice meat.
Okay.
Okay.
I will
All
take
right.
your word for it, Governor.
Yes.
Thank you.
As the Governor said, it's ladies first.
Ladies first, yes.
Yes, and we're gonna have a taste of
Wow,
it.
thank you. Wow.
Yes.
Don't worry, it's roasted traditionally, so it's good.
Let me take a
hiyo ni
bite
nyingi.
into this.
Okay, kidogo.
Even me.
Stephen Leto was my assistant, so he also has to get a tie of it.
Vicky, how is it?
Nice
Delicious.
meat.
Delicious.
Very nice meat here.
You don't even need any salt in this. Amazing.
No, natural,
Very.
you know, and roasted in a way that all the bad thing goes. That is
juices
why they
quickly-
they get lean.
Yes.
No complications with fat meat because it's properly roasted.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'm going to ask plans to market for the local farmers. Their produce.
Hebu mkatie Vicky kidogo kidogo. She's struggling with the bones. So mkate. Katie kidogo kidogo.
All right. And that does it for Sunday Live. Thank you so much for watching right here from the beautiful, great county of Kajiado. I'm enjoying my meat here. Thank you so much, Governor Ole Lenku,
Karibu,
for
Vicky.
your time. And Serena Mboseli Lodge, this has been wonderful. Leto, you've been a wonderful host as well. You'll help me with this. Yes. Good night.
Are we? We are done. Not a break.